A standing ovation for a Ukrainian veteran of the Second World War
who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians.
How the hell did this happen? Late last week, Canadian Parliament gave a standing ovation to a Nazi soldier. So, in this video, I will show you that standing ovation. I will discuss who's to blame, if they're taking accountability for it. I will also discuss a lot of the surrounding information, history about this, just so we're clear about what went on here and how the hell this wasn't caught beforehand. So first, let me play for you this video. This was during an appearance by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky discussing the importance of the alliance with Canada. And during that appearance, you have here the Speaker of the House. Here's the video.
A standing ovation for a Ukrainian veteran of the Second World War
who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98.
Invited by House Speaker Anthony Rota to witness Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's address to Parliament, Yaroslav Hunka is one of his constituents.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service.
I have to at least smirk a little bit at how ridiculous, this is. You don't even you don't have to be a history buff to understand. If he fought against the Russians in World War II, against the Soviets in World War II, who is he fighting with? He was fighting with the Nazis. So I'm going to get a little more into the history here, and also the importance, by the way, of the Soviet Union in winning World War II, which is one of these things that many of us in the West are not taught and have to learn ourselves, as I did, well into my 20s. I had no idea how important the Soviets were to winning World War II until I was, deep in my 20s, just because of the level of propaganda that we are taught growing up. And I think this goes to how this wasn't caught. How you could have the House Speaker here introducing him as someone who fought the Russians as a war hero. It's so completely absurd. Like, the extent of the thinking here, I'm going to get to his apology because it is his fault. So he clearly didn't know. Look, people are going to say, oh, he didn't. I don't think he knew. He had no idea. This is a guy from his riding. He's an elderly individual. He's going to, applause here. Like it's the idea here is, oh, here's this guy who, just like now, here's a guy who's Ukrainian. He fought against the Russians. Just like now, you have the Ukrainians fighting against the Russians, as if they're similar fights, as if it's a similar thing. Like, that is the extent of the thinking here, is that, oh, this old man fought against the Russians just like now. He still stands with the Ukrainians. It's completely void of any sort of historical context. It is really embarrassing. So Yaroslav Hunka is the Nazi soldier that was given that standing ovation. Before I get to his history here, just a little history on the Soviets and their importance in World War II. Again, these are the people that this soldier fought against. But as the Washington Post writes here, the Red Army was the main engine of Nazism's destruction, writes British historian and journalist Max Hastings in his book. The Soviet Union paid the harshest price. Though the numbers are not exact, an estimated 26 million Soviet citizens died during World War II, including as many as 11 million soldiers. At the same time, the Germans suffered 3/4 of their wartime losses fighting the Red Army. Quote, it was the Western Allies' extreme good fortune that the Russians, and not themselves, paid almost the entire butcher's bill for defeating Nazi Germany, accepting 95% of the military casualties of the three major powers of the Grand Alliance, writes Hastings. So just so we're clear about the importance of the Soviet Union in winning World War II, let's also now get to the history here of this soldier. So as forward breaks here, Zelensky joins Canadian Parliament's ovation to 98-year-old veteran who fought with the Nazis. So as they write, the AP caption described Hunka as having, quote, fought with the 1st Ukrainian Division in World War II before later immigrating to Canada. The 1st Ukrainian Division is another name for the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS, the military wing of the Nazi Party. The unit was also called SS Galincina. This is the same unit that is honored by controversial monuments in Canada, Australia, and, as Ford recently exposed, the suburbs of Philadelphia and Detroit. Jewish groups have called for their removal. It is unclear whether Zelensky knew that Hunka fought with the unit. In 2021, the Ukrainian president joined the governments of Israel and Germany in denouncing a march honoring SS Galincina in Kyiv. So this part of it is still sort of unclear. Some are claiming, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but that Trudeau and Zelensky met with Hunka before this honoring. At that point, I would have hoped, if that happened, if that meeting actually happened, I would have hoped that they would have realized who this man was. But as I'll get to, the House Speaker here takes complete blame. So as Anthony Rota writes, on Friday, September 22nd, in my remarks following the address of the President of Ukraine, I recognized an individual in the gallery. I have subsequently become aware of more information which causes me to regret my decision to do so. I wish to make clear that no one, including fellow parliamentarians and the Ukraine delegation, was aware of my intention or of my remarks before I delivered them. This initiative was entirely my own, the individual in question being from my writing and having been brought to my attention. I particularly want to extend my deepest apologies to Jewish communities in Canada and around the world. I accept full responsibility for my actions. So I do really think, because this man, again, was from his writing, I do really think this is completely on the Speaker of the House and not on anybody else. And as they write here again, Zelensky has denounced these sorts of individuals, so there's no reason for him to engage in Putin's propaganda. This is, by the way, a gift wrap of propaganda for Vladimir Putin, because Putin is trying to claim that the Ukrainians are Nazis, and he's trying to, clear Ukraine of Nazis, which is ridiculous, but that's his claim. When you have here Canadian Parliament with Zelensky giving a standing ovation to a former Nazi, a Nazi soldier, it is purely gift wrap propaganda for Vladimir Putin. And as I'll get to with CBC report here, he's apparently already using this. So more on that here from CBC.
Still, the opposition is asking how this could happen. The Prime Minister's office says it wasn't aware the Speaker had invited Hunka, saying in a statement, no advance notice was provided to the Prime Minister's office, nor the Ukrainian delegation, about the invitation or the recognition.
And JP, you've been trying to reach Yaroslav Hunka.
Yeah, Ian, we've asked Yaroslav Hunka and his family to comment. There's been no response. He's defended, though, his war service in the past, calling it a fight for Ukrainian independence. Regardless, Russian propagandists have already pounced, using his presence in Parliament to malign Ukraine and Canada's support for their war effort.
All right, so I should be clear. I really don't think that anyone else was aware of this beforehand. That's still no excuse. How did this get through? How did no one else there? Like, let's say the Speaker of the House had no idea, which he should have known, considering the fact that this man fought the Soviets in World War II. But let's say he didn't know. I don't think he knew. No one else caught this. They don't vet anyone before giving them a standing ovation with, Zelensky there, the entire Parliament. It's amazing to me that this man wasn't vetted at all before receiving this standing ovation. So that is just a, monumental embarrassment for, I think, not only just Parliament, but Canada as a whole. And the fact that this is now being used by Putin as propaganda for the Russians goes to the importance of this entire story. Let me just push back before I get to a couple last things here. This defense that, his defense is he fought for an independent Ukraine. And with that, along with that defense, as I've seen, is, he chose the lesser of two evils, which at that point, you're arguing that the Nazis should have won World War II. There is no defense of this. And if there was a defense of this, you wouldn't have seen this apology and this walkback from the House Speaker. So clearly he knows he screwed up, that this man should not have been given a standing ovation, should not have been there for this, that this is not the same as that what he fought for is not the same as what Ukrainians are fighting for now. It's very embarrassing. And this again goes to the complete lack of history when it comes to our awareness of World War II and the importance of the Soviet Union in defeating the Nazis. But also, just on in case people are unaware, I linked to all my sources below, so you can read through this whole piece if you want. But the division that Hunka fought with was visited by SS head Heinrich Himmler, who spoke of the soldiers' willingness to slaughter Poles. 3 months earlier, SS Galincina subunits perpetrated what is known as the Huto-Piniechka massacre, burning 500 to 1,000 Polish villagers alive. And from what I have learned, that is one of at least 3 mass civilian atrocities that his division perpetuated. So it is really amazing that this man was given a standing ovation. Last couple things here. I saw these online, and I think these are good points worth making. Cass here writing, a Nazi being celebrated in Canadian Parliament is the direct result of decades of miseducation and anti-communism. Nazi glorification, downplaying of Nazi collaboration, and anti-communism cannot be separated. This, for me, is the big lesson out of all of this, is just how unaware most people in the West are of the importance of the Soviet Union in World War II. And the fact that many people aren't even aware of Nazi collaborators like this man, or actual Nazis, and their fight, and that their fight against the Soviets were on behalf of Nazis. And this is why I can't blame people for not knowing this stuff, because we are not taught this. Again, as I said, I didn't know about the vast majority of this until much later, and that's only because I do this work. So this really is a part of our education that needs to be examined in how we teach World War II, how we teach communism or don't teach communism. And, I'm not sure how this stuff is being taught now, but I hope it's changed a little bit since from when I was younger, because again, I was not taught any of this. A couple last things. This was just funny. Sean here, saying he got off work to see that I ratioed Chrystia Freeland. So check out Chrystia Freeland's tweet here. Wishing Jewish communities in Uniros and across Canada observing Yom Kippur an easy and meaningful fast. So Yom Kippur is going on right now during all of this. And this tweet from Sean. Canada is so inclusive that our leaders can celebrate Yom Kippur and the Waffen SS in the same weekend. Unbelievable. Last thing here, I want to give some credit to this man here, History Hustle. So he has a big breakdown on this division that Yaroslav Hunka was in. So it's a very objective view. He gives the perspective of both sides, but it's very clear, who's correct. But still, he gives the full story here. And from what I've seen, he does some pretty good videos, so you can check him out. Also, last thing, this video will very likely be demonetized because I say the word Nazi several times. This is an ongoing issue when it comes to any sort of attempt to discuss what is going on with extremism in this world currently, or what went on, in the past. It's an ongoing problem with YouTube, is their inability to discern what is education and information versus what is propaganda on behalf of those hate groups. So if you want to support me on Patreon, if you like what I do, if you enjoy this commentary, patreon.com/therationalnational, link is below. You could also support me on YouTube by becoming a YouTube member. There's a PayPal link in the description box below as well on YouTube. So several ways to support this channel, this kind of commentary, because it is hard to cover this sort of stuff and continue covering it and be able to, have some kind of work doing this job. So if you want to support me, it's much appreciated. But when it comes to Canada, man, what are we going to do? This is incredibly embarrassing. And I hope this is maybe the beginning of some education when it comes to our history, when it comes to the history of the Soviet Union and the differences from then to what is happening now with the Russians and Ukraine.